Welcome again. We are going to tackle our topic which we had established the other day before we left because of the outbreak of pandemic, that is COVID-19. So in this lesson, we are going to look at the topic, that is resource and economic activity. And then also we are going to look at some of the definition of these words. So we want to look at resource. Resource is anything that we can use to create wealth. Example, we have the land. Then also we have forests, we have also wildlife. Those are examples of resource. Then we have economic activity. Economic activity are things that people engage in to earn a living. For example, talk about transport and communication, talk about mining, talk about teaching the way I'm teaching with this chalk, because at the end of the day, I earn a living from here. Now, we are going to look at urbanization today, and we are going to define what is urbanization. Urbanization is the growth and development of industries. Urbanization is the growth and development of towns and urban centers. So that's the definition of urbanization. When you talk about urbanization, then we are looking at the growth and development of towns and urban centers. So we are going to look at the major urban centers in Kenya. For example, we have Nairobi, which is the capital city of Kenya. Talk about Mombasa, we have Thika, we have Eldoret, we have Kisumu, we have Malindi, then talk about Lamu. So we are going to look at this one by one. We shall start with the Nairobi. Nairobi, we are going to look at how it was established. So Nairobi was started as a depot for railway builders. When you talk about a depot, is where the railway builders used to store their material, the steel, for building the railway. Remember, the first railway in Kenya was established in the year 1901 when it was built during the Uganda Railway and during pre-colonial time. So it was established during that time. So it was a depot where the railway builders used to store their material. Then also we are saying Nairobi was having a flat land where expansion could take place with the ease. Then there was also enough supply of water, fresh water, for the people living in that area. So it was a suitable place for these people to settle there and then establish their building of railway. So fresh water and flat land. It started as a railway builder depot. Then after that, we are going to look at the functions of Nairobi. We are going to look at the functions of Nairobi. So, functions of Nairobi. Number one, administrative center. Administrative center. Nairobi is an administrative center. What do we mean by administrative center? Nairobi is the seat of the government, where the many offices of the government have been placed at Nairobi. For example, talk about the president office is found at Nairobi. Then also talk about the parliament building is found at Nairobi. And we know very well the parliament is an organ of the government which makes the law of the country. Then also we have very many court systems in Nairobi. So that's why we call it an administrative center. When you talk about administrative center, then you're looking at the government administrative offices. Then number two, Nairobi is a tourist center. So Nairobi attracts very many tourists across the world and even across the country and even across the continent of Africa. Nairobi has major national museums, they are found there. Then we have the National Park, Nairobi National Park, I think you know it. So that is a tourist center. Nairobi also have another function, that is a transport and communication center. Nairobi has major roads connecting to East Africa, then across the Africa. Then we have also, you remember the railway, standard gauge railway, the SGR, was built all the way from Nairobi to Mombasa. That is transport and communication. Then Jomo Kenyatta International Airport is also found in Nairobi. So those are forms of transport and communication when you talk about Nairobi. Then in terms of communication, we have very many radio stations in Nairobi. Talk about Radio Citizen. Then also we have Radio Maisha. They are found at Nairobi. Then we have also the TV stations, KTN, K24, Citizen TV. They are also found at Nairobi. Those are now forms of communication systems found at Nairobi. Then Nairobi is also has also another function. Another function of Nairobi. Nairobi is a residential center. Residential. What do we mean by residential center? Residential center is an area where people live. So when you go to Nairobi, Nairobi holds millions of people living there from different ethnic groups in Kenya. So that is what we mean by a residential center. So when you go to Nairobi, you'll find that we have very many people staying at Nairobi. Then Nairobi is a home for diplomatic centers. Diplomatic centers. When you talk about diplomacy, we are talking about good relationship with Kenya and the other nations. So when you go to Nairobi, you will find that the headquarters of UNEP, that is an agent of United Nations, is found at Nairobi. Then also we have UNICEF, is also found at Nairobi. You will find these are also the diplomatic units found at Nairobi, which has the headquarters at Nairobi. You will find them there at Nairobi. So that's what you call diplomatic center. Nairobi is also educational center. Nairobi is an educational center and social center. So when you talk about educational center, then we are looking at the schools. You will have very many schools in Nairobi. Then we have also universities, colleges that are found at Nairobi. Then another thing also, we are talking about social center, where we have social facilities like we have the carnival, where most of the events takes place. In case of anything happening across the country, maybe we have great people from outside. Carnival can hold very many people. You'll find that is a social facility. So you'll find it at Nairobi. So I think that is about Nairobi. Then next we shall move to another town called Mombasa. That is the second town we are going to look at. So Mombasa, allow me to read. Mombasa is the second largest city in Kenya. It is found along the shores of the Indian Ocean. Mombasa was established by the Arabs due to trading activities. So that is Mombasa. Mombasa was made a city in Kenya in the year 202. In the year 202, it was made a city in Kenya. Then also Mombasa, we have said, is found along the coastal areas. Then was established due to trading activities by the Arabs. So we want also to look at the functions of Mombasa. Number one, Mombasa is a tourist center. Tourist center. So Mombasa attracts very many tourists. You know very well that along the coastal areas, the main tourist attractions center or tourist attraction destination, that is the sandy beaches along the coast. Then we have also the marine parks where the wildlife living in water, they are found there. So it's a tourist center, attract very many tourists. And when you talk about tourists, we don't talk about the Europeans. We are talking about people from outside. They can be Europeans. We ourselves as Kenyans, we can visit those places as domestic tourists. People can come from across the continent of Africa to visit these areas. So Mombasa is a tourist center, that's point one. Then number two, Mombasa is a transport and communication center. Transport and communication center. So when you talk about transport and communication, we have said, under transport we have the railway, then also we have the road transport, we have also water transport. You'll find many cruise ships along the ocean transporting goods from one place to another. So that is transport. And then when you talk about communication, we are looking at the TV station, then major radio stations also, they are found at Mombasa. So those are one of the things we are talking about. And then number three, Mombasa is also a residential center. Residential center. These points, I think they are repeating themselves, but I will elaborate for better understanding. We have said a residential center is where people live. When you go to Mombasa, you'll find very many communities living there from different parts of the world. You'll find the Arabs, they are there. We have the Swahili people, and even very many communities across the world. So it is a residential center hosting very many people in the country. Then we have number four, Mombasa is a seaport. Seaport. Mombasa is a seaport. When you talk about seaport, Mombasa has a harbor where we anchor the ships across the world. Maybe those bringing the tourists and the goods from abroad. You'll find Mombasa is one of the major seaports in East Africa. We also call Mombasa the gateway to East Africa because it's one of the major seaports in Eastern Africa. So that's what you're talking about. So Mombasa is a seaport. I think I've elaborated on that. Then number five, Mombasa is one of the has also a fishing ground, fishing area, where you'll find that we have very many fishermen along the coast carrying out fishing activities in that area. So I think we shall have finalized that on Mombasa. That is about Mombasa. Next town, we are going to look at Kisumu. Kisumu. Kisumu is located on the shore of the Lake Victoria. Then Kisumu started as a village because of Lake Victoria around that area produces a lot of fish. Kisumu, earlier it was basically known as Port Florence, but because of the explorers like John Speke, so walked around that lake, then he gave it the name Lake Victoria, which is a former name of the Queen of England who was called Victoria. So Lake Victoria was given the name by John Speke, who was one of the major explorers in Eastern Africa, who was which was the name of the one of the queen in England called Victoria. So you can find that more. Then we have said also Kisumu also started as a fishing village around Lake Victoria. That's why we have said that. Then we want also to look at the major functions of Kisumu. So functions of Kisumu, functions. Number one, fishing center. Fishing center. So you will find that Kisumu is a major fishing ground because we have a lot of fish produced in the Lake Victoria. So we have very many fishermen fishing along that lake. Then number two, Kisumu is a residential area. Residential area. So we have said that residential area means where people are living. So when you go to Kisumu, you'll find very many ethnic groups living in Kisumu. So a residential center is a place where people live. Then another one, number three, Kisumu is a tourist center. Tourist center. Tourist center. We have said when you go to Kisumu along Dunga Beach on the shores of the Lake Victoria, we have very many tourists who get attracted to that place. We have also what we call Impala National Park, just along the shores of Lake Victoria. Then we have Lake Victoria itself also attract very many tourists. Towards the town also, we have the Kisumu National Museum, which also attract very many tourists in that area. Then in Kisumu, number 4, it is a transport and communication center. Transport and communication center. Kisumu, we have very many roads connecting to the interior parts of the country. Then also we have many roads connecting to other parts of the region, that's Eastern Africa. So that's what we mean transport and communication center. Then also when you talk about transport, also can look at the pipeline, which used to transport the fluids, like we have the petroleum products all the way from Changamwe, Mombasa. So that is about transport and communication. Then when you talk about communication, then also we are looking at major radio stations. You'll also Sayar FM, you'll find it at Kisumu. Then we have also TV stations, also they are found at Kisumu. Those are one of them also, which are a major function of this town. I think we shall also look at Kisumu as also another function with this educational center. So number 5, Kisumu is educational center. Educational center. We have said when we look at about the educational center, then we are looking at the universities, the schools, the polytechnics, then also we have the colleges. So when you go to Kisumu, we have very many learning institutions there. That is what you're talking about. And then number 6, Kisumu is an administrative center. Administrative center. So Kisumu is an administrative center. Administrative center means we have government offices located at Kisumu. For example, during the establishment of the developed government, we know very well Kisumu is a county. So the headquarters of Kisumu County is just located in the town itself. We call it Kisumu. So we have very many court of law. They are found at Kisumu. We have police station. We have court systems at Kisumu. That is what we call administrative center. Then also we want to look at another town, that is Lamu. So we want to look at Nakuru. Nakuru is found in Rift Valley region. Nakuru was established during the settler farming in Kenya. You remember the settlers are those Europeans who came to carry out farming activities in Kenya. They pushed Africans from their lands. Then they started practicing farming in those island areas. So Nakuru was established as a market where the goods from the European farms were sold. So that is how Nakuru started. So functions of Nakuru. Functions. Nakuru is an agricultural center. Agricultural center. So Nakuru is an agricultural center. What do we mean? Around Nakuru area is surrounded by a large fertile lands. And we have said earlier that it was established by the European settlers, those who were farmers. So this land provides good surroundings where the market was provided for the goods from the farm produce. Then Nakuru also is a residential center. Residential center. We have said residential center are areas where people live. When you go to Nakuru, you'll find very many ethnic groups living at Nakuru. Then Nakuru also is a transport and communication center. Transport and communication center. So when you talk about transport and communication, we are looking at the roads. Then also talk about the, we have also roads transport, that it is. Then communication, also looking at the post offices, talk about the radio station, then also other services provided by the town. Then also we have Nakuru is also a tourist center. So when you go to Nakuru, we have Lake Nakuru, and Lake Nakuru have major birds called flamingo, which attract most tourists from the region of Kenya and even across the continent and across the world. So I think we shall wind up on that. That's our lesson. So next time we shall proceed with another unit. So I think below that video we have questions there which you cannot understand, just ask. Thank you.